Today is the extraordinary beginning of a new era. Wait, but first, can all of you hear me? Okay, fine. Once more. Today is the extraordinary beginning of a new era. My name is Jared, and today we will adventure with great enthusiasm into the global and technological world of video games and language learning. And just in case you want to know exactly what's on the menu before you hop in, I got prepared. Here's what you'll get. So first, you need to find out exactly the advantages and the disadvantages of learning languages from video games. Can you acquire a C2 level just by using the Google Play Store or iOS and your video home consoles of choice? In addition to common traps that video game using language learners fall into, how can you avoid them? What sort of languages can be used? Is any of the 6,000 plus languages on Earth possible to acquire via your dream technological device? What sort of video games should be used? Are they all created equal? We'll find out. Let's play videos. And what makes them different from regular television as far as language learning is concerned? A quick question. Who here knows what a Let's Play video is? Show of hands. Who here has used them as language learning tools? Wow, indeed. So I guess you should be the one leading the revolution and not I. Okay, so, and then finally, video games and the future of linguistic diversity. If you know minority or endangered tongues, what can you do to help? And what situations in language learning are best helped by using video games or Let's Play videos. But first, a little bit about myself. And so here I am with my Grönlandisch Wort für Wort. I am proud to say that I am the lead designer of Kaverini Nuke Adventures, which is an RPG that is set in contemporary Greenland, set for release next year. It is a co-production between several companies in the United States and also in Greenland, with music written by native Greenlanders in part, and should I say mostly. And so exactly where my video game story begins was, well, I went to my cousin's house over Rosh Hashanah when I was visiting Milwaukee, and that's how I got introduced to my first video game, Super Mario Kart, for the SNES. But also edutainment games as a child. I got a Game Boy at age 8, and of course, college requires no further introduction. You get exposed to everything there. And also very interesting, my language learning stories is that obviously I had a dream of becoming a polyglot since I was very little, but when I heard at a dinner table in Stockholm that actually it was possible to become fluent as a language as an adult, I figured, screw it, I'm going all in. I've done that. Okay, so now, without me having to talk any further, let's talk about the advantages of using video games. So one very important thing is the fact that converting your downtime into under-the-radar study time is one of the best things that you can do. Not up to probably picking up your book all of the day or just simply getting repetitive strain injury from memorize during your commute. Don't worry about it, because very interestingly, what if some of your very, very good video games that you very, very much like are in your dream language? And so here we actually have Pokemon Mystery Dungeon 2. It was a fan translation into Polish. And you're actually going to hear about this fine YouTuber later on. He has an extraordinary talent that you'll find out in the Let's Play section. You'll actually notice that the entire dialogue is actually translated into Polish, but given as it's one of my weaker languages, I'm afraid that other people will have to judge the translation. Note that the names of the Pokemon are in English, as well as the technique names. And so there are certain limitations that are also found in this as well. Okay, so also concerning what sort of vocabulary you actually get from video games. So first, it is an excellent choice should you choose to want to get out of the language learner material ghetto. So when I was in Greenland and when I was in Southeast Asia, I had a book. But that book can only take me so far. It's not really going to teach me very in-depth cultural references. It's not really going to teach me all of the slang. It might touch a little bit of it, but above all else, in order to speak the language, you need to use the language the way native speakers do. And very interestingly, if you want a way to do that properly, I'm scared, help me. Then in that case, you know exactly what to do. Your muscle memory might already be well defined in regards to your dream game. And so you can just simply hop right in, do what you usually do, and then take it in slowly. Also, almost all video games will rely heavily on text that will teach you vocabulary that textbook and apps ignore. Now, how many of you learned like the word to poison or arrows or high fantasy vocabulary using your textbooks? Show of hands. Okay. Very telling. Also, no language learning exactly teaches me about high fantasy vocabulary, but I'm a game designer and I need to talk about these things in multilingual business meetings. So, where exactly do I turn? Oh no. Ta-da! And so very interestingly, you find games based on your vocabulary gaps. Here you have an open source game, which means free, available for play legally, should I add, and called The Battle for Westnoth. And it is actually available in Icelandic and dozens of other languages, and plenty of other languages as well. And so, by virtue of the fact that I've actually been playing through this game, I acquired words like heal, poison, trap, and injured. And many other vocabulary games exist for other vocabulary sets too. So think about, where are you drawing blanks in your conversations or default to English loanwords? And now we come to the most advanced memory technique in the history of humanity. Welcome to the memory palace. And by the memory palace, I mean link to the past in Swedish. So, very interestingly, who here knows what the memory palace techniques is? Show of hands. Now, very interestingly, you can actually really use the memory palace to maximum effect in your video game world. How exactly? So what you really need to do is just think about what sort of hooks you really have in the world that a video game has. How many of you are aware of the fact that video games often create little worlds that you as a character walk around in? Show of hands. Okay, very good. Okay, I promise here, I'm wearing out your hands, so I think I'll probably have to stop for now. Okay, so very interestingly, you can actually associate the various words that you want to learn with various elements found in this environment. Note that this place right here actually does have a very secluded feel. And assuming that you don't know any of the words in the dialogue, you can even plug entire phrases or words that you don't know and then associate them with secluded palace, or even better yet, with the music that's also playing as well. Many people believe that the memory palace is the world's most effective memory technique in video games, especially ones set in physical places, such as strategy games and RPG overworlds offer a method of using it. And also one important thing is you want to use all of the senses. And so video games tend to feature music, sound effects, and other emotional stimuli, like bad jokes, for those of you who can read Japanese, that will assist you in putting words into your head. When the game takes a turn for the better or the worst, you are likely to remember phrases in your head, even if you don't know what they mean, and even better if you say them out loud. Like Lawrence knows exactly how many games you're actually just simply pressing the same button over and over again, and apparently the same character does the exact same thing, and you see the same line of text. You really think that's actually going to be very helpful, right? Well, indeed you are. Also, another thing you can do, anything that requires player input, such as naming characters or cities, can be used as a language learning technique. Let's take Pokemon, for example, which you can actually name your Pokemon after vocabulary you need to learn. And so this is actually a very helpful technique that I've actually done. And it also really creates various memory hooks that you can also use in associating that word with multiple variety of things, whether it be colors, exactly what the mon looks like. And you can also do this for various cities, for example, in games in which you control empires. Okay, another thing is now we have to discuss the disadvantages of using games to learn languages. So much like using apps, you cannot use games by themselves in order to learn a language to fluency, but chances are you already knew that. That said, it can very much serve as a magic key to gaining a lot of vocabulary quickly that you had no idea where it came from. And so, yes, he actually wrote the music for those of you who were in the room earlier. He wrote most of the music for my upcoming video game. Okay, and also you have to understand is that not all games created equal, but perhaps maybe this is also a good thing. You want games that generally feature words, whether they're spoken or flashed onto the screen. So here we have Super Mario Maker, which I doubt that I see any words there, although if I'm wrong, then you're welcome to correct me. But very interestingly, one fantastic thing about Let's Play videos and using video games to learn languages, they actually complement each other's gaps significantly well. That is to say that what sort of games and techniques work for Let's Play videos actually covered the variety of weaknesses that are left open by the other genre. And so, also, another thing to understand is that some games actually feature conversational patterns that you are more likely to use in real life. So here we have a game that has been localized into German called Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series. This is very much heavily modeled after the Japanese court system, in which you actually play a lawyer, in which you are supposed to find holes in various witnesses' testimonies. And so something very interesting about this is that if you compare the variety of dialogue that is used here in comparison to, let's say, how Thanos would seek in, let's say, a Marvel Comics themed game, which do you think you're more likely to use at your language social event? Think about it. Another thing is you can also use game to feature a very narrow vocabulary set. That said, it will teach a vocabulary set in detail if that is the case. So here we have a game called Market Crashers, which is available as downloadable content for the Nintendo 3DS. This is apparently a game, you guessed it, about the stock exchange, which I have to confess I didn't even really know much about the stock exchange, even in my native language, until I played this game. Which also brings to another point, you can also use games to actually improve your native language. Yes, indeed, I learned a lot of sports vocabulary as well from the Wii Sports game. I'm not ashamed to admit it. My parents never really liked sports. Okay, so another thing to also keep in mind is that narrow sets of vocabulary aren't necessarily bad. There are some games like the Civilization game in which you run an empire for 7,000 years of history. Like 7,000 is a lot, and so as a result, every single aspect of your empire, you're going to learn a lot of vocabulary in that way. One is not necessarily better than the other, but obviously if you really want to learn a lot about the stock market vocabulary rather than the empire one, you obviously know what sort of game to pick. And so maybe a game about fishing or the stock market is exactly just what you need. Okay, so what common traps can you fall into? Exactly what you've all been waiting for. Okay, breezing through cutscenes, dialogues, and gameplay. Not using your voice, unless there is voice acting. Breezing over words you don't know. And so I would really like to thank my Hebrew teacher in Sweden, Frida Schatz, for having said that if you don't improve your vocabulary, you always remain on the same level. Another thing that some teachers may actually disagree with, that some people may want you to actually play through the game in a language you're very good with first, before you just simply hop in which case you can actually really get used to what sort of things you can actually expect, and also how the translation is different from, let's say, the ones that you're used in. So for example, if I'm playing an English game and then I play it in French, I actually really get to know exactly how the jokes are translated, and that's actually very helpful. Okay, what sort of languages can you use? Global languages are the most common on the planet and very commonly localized into. Those with voice acting will usually be in these rather than one of the other two categories that we're going to go ahead and discuss here. Also, small national languages can sometimes exist for them for commercial games. And for games that use crowdin.com as a localization platform, a lot of translation will be available in the small national language, and apparently for those of you who can see this list, including Vietnamese, Swedish, Finnish, Turkish, and I believe both varieties of Serbian, and many, many others. And so, as a result, a lot of translations of video games will probably be created by fans. And also, crowdin.com is available for free. And if you are a native speaker of any language, I highly recommend you hop on. You can definitely go ahead and localize games in your native language, regardless of how politically powerful it is. Or you can even request from the creators to actually have a game or a program localized into your language. And so, definitely keep this in mind. This is one thing that you can help. Homework for you. Okay, so again, endangered and minority languages, rare, but sometimes possible to find. So Minecraft is probably the most localized game in the history of humanity, and as a result, it features many languages in its lineup, and we're going to get the full list on the next page. As a result, features, and not all of them are complete translations. Like last I was here, very interestingly, I believe the Maori translation was actually at 13%, and I used to do some work for it, and then I got Lyme disease, and I fell ill for a year. I'm better now, don't worry. Okay, so here is the complete list of languages in which you can play Minecraft to some degree. Now, some of these you might want to see on your resume, and others you might not exactly. Any lolcat speakers here by any chance? Okay, so go ahead and photograph that if you so wish. Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3. Are we good? Good. Okay, fine. And so another thing about using a video game, most games can be used at any time with great advantages, especially from the upper beginner to high advanced, depending on the game and its target audience. And so keep in mind that probably when you can put very, very simple sentences together, like, I like sandwiches. Do you like sandwiches? I think you like sandwiches. And then you probably want to speak with more complicated sentence structure. Feel free to go ahead and hop in here. However, another thing that starting with using video games as a language learning tool as an absolute beginner is not recommended unless you have a basis in a closely related language. Also keep in mind that learning how to pronounce or read your language out loud in some capacity before you hop into video game immersion is actually very, very helpful. Now, obviously there are some languages like Hebrew and Japanese that require significantly more barriers in learning how to read them in, let's say, comparison to Esperanto or Finnish, which are read with great mathematical precision. And here we actually have The Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, translated into Esperanto. And so this is something that my mouth dropped for 1 minute when I saw this. And so I would recommend that if you are using a video game, I would enter with an ability to read sentences out loud with a fair amount of confidence. Remember, utilize your sentences and your senses. This is very important. Okay, so what sort of games should best be used and how can I find them? So Steam, who knows what this is? Okay, fine, very, very good. Okay, so for those of you who don't exactly know, this is a platform in which you can actually buy video games online. They are associated with your account, and you can install the Steam client on multiple devices, thereby downloading the games and your progress between multiple devices. It is your portable video game store. And you can also sort by languages in them. And so play what you like, obviously, but be aware of the fact that some games are more likely to give you more returns than others. For example, compare the Civilization games versus Mario Kart. It's very, very clear which one features more words and vocabulary in it. Although certainly if you talk a lot about Mario Kart with your friends, like Lord knows exactly how many times I've had to have conversations about Rainbow Road in Spanish because my siblings really wanted to play that track 8 times in a row. Okay, so that said, even games with seemingly small amounts of vocabulary can also be useful. And so, for example, the Smash Brothers games features facts about the characters that you fight as on the loading screen in the language it's localized into. And if you're a beginner, sometimes smaller sets with more context. This can also be helpful with very, very small apps as well, some of which aren't even games. That can also be helpful as well. Make sure to experiment around and see what sort of games you like. And also what really gives you that warm feeling of, I just leveled up, I learned something. And so keep in mind, your gut feeling about vocabulary games is very, very important. Do they point to a particular genre? Do they point to a particular designer, a series, or a particular machine? What sort of images and music are you using to remember the vocabulary? And I would give more advice on this, but I only have my perspective, and I've noticed that for me, adventure games and strategy games, usually with cheery music, a bit like what you heard before this presentation, and exploration tend to be the most helpful in learning new words for me. Okay, so now let's discuss Let's Play videos. So videos of people playing video games with commentary throughout. Here we have a Let's Play video in Greenlandic. And just to give you an idea, I have tried, so I was supposed to do for this presentation, but sadly, on the interest of time, I collected Let's Play videos in 84 different languages. And apparently I was supposed to make some variety of compilation, but sadly, circumstances came about in which it was just simply not possible. Now, I'm sorry to have to employ your hands again. Who knows what the YouTube Partner Program is? Okay, so I might have to explain it for those of you who are unaware. The YouTube Partner Program actually allows you to make money from your videos by actually putting ads on them. And very interestingly, you're wondering, that guy doesn't own that video game, so how can he possibly make money on it? So very interestingly, he is allowed to make money from it if he uses commentary throughout. And so very interestingly, because you need to use commentary throughout, which language do you think most people will default to in using Let's Play videos? You got it, the native language that they know best. And so it thereby ensures that dozens upon dozens of languages are featured in Let's Play videos throughout the internet, although they manage to be mostly those from the developed world and primarily those in Europe and East Asia. And so what makes Let's Play videos different from regular television? Let's go ahead and discuss this. So the big difference is that the memory palace is stronger in Let's Play videos than in regular television. Donkey Kong Country, for example. The environment is very, very clearly defined here. You actually see a jungle. You can associate various words that the Welsh speakers on the screen are playing. You can probably capture their little sounds in their head or even use a little Google Translate thing. I've heard it's fairly reliable for Welsh, but you're welcome to go ahead and disagree with me after the talk. And then you can actually just simply get an understanding of what sort of words are being said, and then once you get that word, you can actually feed it to Donkey Kong as it is. And so you just simply associate that little mental image with the sort of words that they're playing. And so the words that they're saying, you associate them with the definition, you also associate them with the environment, the characters, and also the music. And believe me, the music that plays in this game is not something that you will ever forget. And for those of you who have played the game will know that it is definitely true. And so very interesting, you can do this for plenty of languages throughout. So it is true that television obviously does take place in physical spaces, but the video game environments tend to be very heavily themed. And so jungle music, jungle environment, lava environment, and it's very much really gives you more emotional hooks. And also you can manage to associate with music, your favorite characters, and of course also your favorite thing, raging YouTubers, and we'll get to the emotional hook in a moment. And so the advantages of the Let's Play videos enable you to engage with the language in its genuine casual states and improvised rather than scripted. And this is hugely important, because usually a lot of television doesn't tend to do that because it is scripted, and this is usually not only uncensored, but also intended for a native speaker audience entirely. look at the comment sections of Let's Play videos in other languages, and usually the handful of times which I do see comments in English are from indie developers who have seen, for example, that some guy in Finland is playing their game, and then they respond in English. Okay, so Let's Play videos also teach you how to use anglicisms in your L2 like a natural. Yeah, I do know that some of our presenters have certainly discussed anglicisms in less than fantastic terms, but if English is your native language, also hearing them use various English profanities and also English language jokes. For example, I've noticed Dutch, German, Scandinavians, Indians will also manage to use a significant amount of anglicisms. You can learn from their accent accordingly. And so hearing them will hone your accent in your L2. And also emotional hooks. That is to say, people who get very, very happy, very sad, very angry, or in some cases they tell very, very sad stories as well. That's only happened like about 3 times. And I have to say that I've watched Let's Play videos in well over 35 languages and more than I care to admit. So, a lot of emotional hooks are found in popular Let's Play videos, and those who are very good at it thrive on them. This really, really helps with creating memorable incidents with which you can remember words and constructs. Think about how many times you might have actually remembered a vocabulary word or a phrase in a language you'd like to learn because it's associated with a certain emotional situation where somebody shouted it or cried it at you. And so I'm certain that many of us may have been there in some regards. Okay, so more advantages. Some Let's Play videos also feature conversations between people, effectively functioning as listening to dialogue that is also improvised. There are also some Let's Players that translate all game dialogue into their native language. And this is especially true in most of the world outside of Western Europe and East Asia. For example, a lot of the, especially in Northern Europe and also many parts of Central Eastern Europe as well. And so, for example, the Gerald39, who is the YouTuber that was mentioned earlier, he translates a lot of the dialogue from English into Polish with extraordinary ease that makes me think that he's actually a professional interpreter. Hi, in case you're watching this. Okay, so there are some Let's Players that will translate all game dialogue into their native language, and combined with the elements of the memory palace, can serve as a method to help you think in a language very quickly. You can also manage to say, like, how would I translate that into my target language, and then compare it to how the native speaker does it, and then know exactly how you line up. The various differences will be like little icings on your L2 cake that will really help you acquire fluency and natural sounding tendencies, which is very, very helpful. Okay, so also appropriate use of interjections and profanity can also readily be used, and that's usually only one series, and that's the Kaudervesh, has actually provided significant detail on swear words. Okay, there was colloquial Breton from Routledge, but really that was the only one. But very interestingly, swear words are almost, according to my understanding, barely touched in certainly in classes, even more true in high school. And so usually I did learn a significant amount of swear words, not only from the internet, but also exactly how to use them naturally from videos like these. Okay, most importantly, it's like having a virtual friend that speaks the language that you interact with greatly and who you get to know over time. And this friend, get this, will always be willing to use your target language with you when you go online and press the play button. And that's a fantastic feeling, because I know sometimes there are some people that actually really want me to use English with them or use other languages with them, or sometimes, so I actually get this and I'm very frustrated. Some people who actually, I try to say, for example, and do you speak Greenlandic? And the answer is yes, I do speak it. And then I try to continue in Greenlandic, and then they go ahead and do it in English. Now, thankfully, this has been a sheer minority of human beings. Thank God. Oh, but very interestingly, from people who exist in video formats, you never really need to worry about that. Okay, and now let's go ahead and discuss the disadvantages of the Let's Play video. So sometimes the improvised translations can be a bit off or lacking entirely. Also, in some cases, if they're trying to translate, then the cutscene, which means that when there's action that's occurring in the video game that you don't play part of, and it's a bit like watching a little mini movie. Sometimes it features English dialogue, and it goes too fast for them, and then they're translating it word by word, and then it goes on, they say, blah, 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 I couldn't read that, and then they go ahead and continue with the translation on the next slide. And also, some videos feature a lot more interjections rather than reflections, and some of them feature overly simple language. But obviously, given as there are tons of Let's Players out there, you can obviously get to choose one based on exactly which one creates the variety of learning experience for you and also entertainment experience. But one thing I've definitely learned is that learning and entertainment are different. Shouldn't have taken me this long to figure it out. Also, very formal and academic speech is virtually unknown in Let's Play videos. Yes, even in games about lawyers. the videos are almost solely intended for native speakers, which is going to change after word of this presentation gets out. And learners who aren't as advanced may have trouble keeping up. Although if you're an upper begin, or I would recommend Let's Play videos because it can help you pick up keywords, essential sentences, and other goodies, even if you don't understand everything. Like, I speak like A1 Hungarian right now, and so one thing I've really noticed from Hungarian Let's Play videos is that sometimes not only have I been able to use the simultaneous translation of dialogue into Hungarian, but sometimes I've been able to say, oh yeah, I remember that from Memrise. Seen that in colloquial Hungarian. And then also it like puts these words that were just plain in a book or in an app into a video game world that I'm not going to readily forget. Okay, where was I? Most importantly, some narrators use too much English for your liking, either in reading the dialogue out loud or using anglicisms, and this usually depends on the game. And so usually, again, this depends very much on the variety of characters that you choose to watch videos. And sometimes their habits can actually change significantly. Also, Let's Play videos, what common traps can you fall into? 1, not shadowing. Try to, if possible, repeat after the speaker when he or she is talking and imitate that person to the best of your ability. I do have some memories from early childhood. Very interesting, I do really remember that I actually did imitate a lot of things, and then apparently I copied a lot of that method in learning other languages as well. And so usually you want to be an imitator. As I tell all of my students, if you can imitate a voice, you can learn a second language. There's pretty much no understanding that there is otherwise. Okay, another thing is not using a dictionary or not writing down new words. That's also significantly important as well. And also, this is a big one, not using the comment sections. Yeah, I know that some of them can be toxic, but especially for smaller YouTubers, and most YouTubers in smaller languages will be that, you won't really need to worry about very toxic comment sections, and usually the vast majority of those that I'm subscribed to are actually, the only English language channels to which I subscribe are those belonging to my friends. The rest of the channels which I subscribe to are strictly non-English languages. And so you really won't need to, thankfully, worry about toxic comments too much, especially in smaller communities which are heavily moderated. Also, is using a Let's Play to learn a language good for all situations. 1, excellent for casual conversation. Like a lot of people, when I just simply waltz into a language lounge or what have you, they wonder exactly how did you not speak like a textbook character? This is why. Excellent for the intermediate plateau. I wrote immediate plateau. Great for learning pronunciation and cultural mannerisms and behavior, as well as, if you're lucky, inside jokes and meme. I really actually noticed that when I was in Greenland last week, one thing that apparently I did do wrong is that sometimes I was acting a little bit too American, and then once I actually really learned to not show emotion very, very much, people actually treated me very much like a local. And so really learning a lot of the mannerisms is very, very, very helpful as well. And great for learning pronunciation, as I said. Extremely weak for philosophical or political conversations. Yeah, this has to be said. And virtually useless as an absolute beginner. Like, for example, that one time I tried to learn Vietnamese, tried to watch some Let's Play videos, and I understand nothing. Okay, back to Mango languages with me. Gave up 2 weeks later. One day, I'll come back. Now, linguistic diversity in video game culture. What has been done so far? Well, for one, original games of varying depth have been created for many endangered languages, including Cherokee, Mohawk, and Irish. And very interestingly, if you are a journalist anywhere out there, you can actually help with ensuring that more technology gets into the endangered language sphere by writing about it, by letting other people know about it, and actually creating a positive feedback loop, ensuring that more people create games in indigenous languages and endangered languages, and let people know that their efforts are not only not wasted, but very much encouraged. And I think the world very, very, very much needs that. Also, dear companies watching this, localize your games. So who recognizes this monument here? This is the Eve online monument in Reykjavik, and very interestingly, this online, if I recall correctly, massively, MMORPG, I should probably get myself fired because I don't know what that stands for, and very interestingly, it actually prints the names of all of its players to date, and so, but interestingly, it was not localized into Icelandic. And so in the past, as well as now, there is a self-imposed prison mentality present in video game localization that is hopefully going again. So EVE Online, which I've never played, by the way, was not localized in Icelandic, despite the fact that I've despite having been from there. And back when I played Angry Birds games in 2015, there was no Finnish localization, as far as I can remember, despite Rovio Studios being based in Finland. And if that's how national languages are viewed, imagine how even less powerful languages are ignored on the market. But really, as we're going to see, this is hopefully going to be changing. So, dear fans watching this, you can help. This is your homework, but I don't believe in grades, so that's not something you're going to be worrying about in the slightest. Impressive feats of localization have been accomplished by online communities, such as Breton Esperanto, and anyone know what Talossin is? Wow, very interesting. And so it's the word talos in Finnish actually means in the house. It was apparently created by somebody in Milwaukee. It's a micronation in Milwaukee that apparently had its own artificial language, and Minecraft was translated into it. And so you have to really understand a very fully functioning micronation in many regards. I'm not presenting on Talos. I'm very sorry. Maybe next year. Perhaps they would spread into more realms if people were aware of the demand, as well as if more journalists took an active interest in some projects, as some have been. And now, back when I was learning Unity 3D in 2015, there was a teacher of mine who actually spoke of the press button make game future. And so this idea that one day game making would be so easier that the bar for entry would be virtually nothing. And just waltz in very much the same way that I could use Microsoft Paint to draw my dream cute seal. I could use some super advanced game maker in order to make my game exactly the way I want it. So, a question of accessibility. I once played a video game in Cornish. You have no idea what I went through to get that. And that's actually a Space Invaders clone. And it didn't really feature much Cornish aside from, the rules, which you see here, and the congratulations message upon completing the game. Perhaps one reason that there are few games in minority languages is because of the barrier for entry. A lot of people actually really, I would really like to make a game in my minority language, but how do I do it? Help, please. Well, luckily, that might not be the way of the future. Obviously, endangered languages, I will hope, have a future, but the high barrier for entry, I hope, gets lower and lower and lower, although obviously with that comes, having fewer high-quality games and often markets flooded with a bunch of mediocre clones, but that is not this presentation. Maybe we will live in a world where you can press a button and your dream game will instantly be created. In that case, expect to see more games in languages like Cornish and Faroese. Progress for more powerful languages that aren't global, such as Hebrew, Danish, and Bulgarian web browser games, and some web apps are branching out. So who knows what Akinator is? Anyone? Yeah, it's my parents' favorite game. Hi, Mom and Dad, if you're watching this video on YouTube. Okay, so very interestingly, this is a Genie. It's a French program that will actually, if you think of a historical or fictional character, he will try to guess who it is by asking you a series of questions. If he gets it wrong, you actually have to say who he's thinking of. And as a result, after the game has been played billions of times, you can imagine exactly how scarily accurate he is. Here he is speaking Hebrew, very interestingly. And hopefully we'll actually really get to see super fantastic browser games like this localized into more and more languages. This is in part because of Crowdin.com, which is enabling localization, also similar sites, effectively for free, although sometimes some of the translations are not with 100% accuracy. I should also probably mention that Dutch is more widely being supported in commercial games, which was something unthinkable a decade ago. So the Smash Brothers games, which I mentioned a few slides ago, I remember if you were to tell me that I would be able to play the fourth series of the Smash Brothers games with a Dutch interface in 2010, I would have laughed you out of the room. But very interestingly, surprisingly, it was done, and I was very, very glad to see that. And also the Scandinavian languages and the Western Slavic languages like Czech and Polish, which Skyrim was actually fully localized into both of these languages with complete voice acting. We're actually really getting to see that, and hopefully maybe it will go ahead and branch out. Again, the barrier for entry is probably one of the few things that's limiting this. Okay, so conclusions, and then I can imagine you have tons of questions. Let's Play videos are a greatly untapped resource for learning your L2. Video games can also provide vocabulary that your textbook or language exchange conversations will not. However, the vocabulary they provide is absolutely essential given the role that technology is playing in our lives, like load, save, delete, things of that nature. Even things of that nature will be very, very helpful for you. Video games are, as some of you have seen the program online, slated to become one of the biggest industries on the planet, and it does not show any signs of slowing. And there are good and bad things with that, but I hope one good thing that comes with that is more linguistic diversity and more attention paid to smaller languages, as well as more people learning languages in general. You can also use it to convert your time spent with entertainment to time spent with your second language, or third language, or 31st language, effectively ranking hours required for conversational fluency up. Video game localizations are going to continue to grow with the industry, both as a means to reach more people as well as a means to create a space where smaller languages can more readily be used. And with that, I wish all of you happy gaming. I hope you win.
First of all, that was a fantastic presentation. I think I will probably never have a 50 minutes like what I just experienced. That was awesome. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
So early in the presentation, there was a page with a ton of languages. I don't even remember the context because there was so much going on, but I saw languages like upside down English and lolcat. And I'm sure there were some other ones on there that maybe none of us have heard of. I might be the only one in here, maybe not. I'd really like to know what those languages I've never heard of before are.
Okay, so I'm going, quiz time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to go back. I think I might have a time limit on it, so I'm going to give myself exactly 1 minute in order to get all of this. Okay, where was Minecraft? Okay, no, you are not Minecraft. You are not Minecraft. Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, fine. So let's see which ones that I don't know. Okay, Dutch, English upside down. Okay, Esperanto, Estonian, Filipino, French. Okay, Frisian, Galician. Do you have any questions about any of these? Which ones? I believe it's actually English that's, for example, the U written this way would be U this way. And then it's pretty much English the way you would see in a mirror or on a lake. Does that actually make it clear? I really don't know, to be honest. Facebook is also available in upside down English. But my understanding is that perhaps some people use it as a memory technique or something to create mental acuity. Okay, so lolcat is very much an internet meme-inspired language, as is pirate. September 19th, I believe, was slightly under a month ago.
Could I comment on lolcat?
Yeah.
I don't know about some of the other ones, but you see other languages, constructed languages like Klingon and some that you just wonder why they're there. Lolcat, I have seen the Bible translated into lolcat, don't ask me why, but basically it's written in a way that a cat might understand the Bible.
I think we might have a new theme for next year's conference.
So God is ceiling cat, the devil is basement cat, for example. I'm not an expert on this. I just happened to see it one day, a link to it on Facebook.
I look forward to seeing you apply for a presentation.
Hi, it's a great presentation. I'm a little older. I remember when the industry was young, and I'm still under this stereotype of, all your base or belong to us?
Yes.
I'm assuming that it's grown, that as the industry's grown, the translations have gotten better. Am I under an unfair stereotype?
You are completely correct. I remember one time shortly before I went to Southeast Asia, I actually was doing a Let's Play video with somebody who had learned Japanese to an L2, fluent enough to actually freestyle in it. Very interestingly, when I was actually narrating A Link to the Past, which was the video game you saw translated into Swedish all the way at the beginning, the English looked significantly awkward because, very interestingly, a lot of the polishing and the quality was not done. That was in the early 1990s, and certainly it's gotten a lot better now.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, which is that I came here in part because the last video game I played was Pong. And
good for you.
And I wanted to get some insight into what you and other people I know in the polyglot community are up to, and thank you for providing that.
Thank you very much. I have confessed having not played Pong on the original machine required to do it. Yeah, I don't even know what machine that is.
Great talk.
Thank you.
I was just wondering if you think, so there are basically no studies on this, right?
As far as I can tell, yes.
Okay. I was wondering if just you seem to play more games than I do, because I try to not. But anyways, because I think it's not a good thing to do, but I'm beginning to think that I should start playing video games again because it's the best pastime ever. I was wondering if you think the quality of your monitor and like graphic cards matter to like using the memory palace technique. Because I'm thinking like if I'm playing on just like a little Nintendo Switch and playing, I don't know, Overcooked or something instead of Morrowind on a PC, it would be like kind of different.
I wish I could really tell you the answer to that, but...
But you haven't noticed that you learn languages better on like different devices, or no?
Well, to some degree, I'm trying to put it into words. It actually really depends entirely on my mental state. Like, for some of you might know that I actually come from a Jewish background, and very interestingly, there's an argument in the Babylonian Talmud as to exactly memorizing things during the daytime or during the nighttime is better. And very much, I think, whether learning something, let's say, for example, with a console device or with my PC is better, is very much the same debate as learning between during the day and during the night. Obviously, a lot of people are going to view both of them very differently. And as we say in Yiddish, this is teikedik, which means the word teike was apparently a Hebrew word that was used in the Babylonian Talmud in order to indicate, let us drop this debate, there is no possible way to bring it any further or nor a tenable conclusion. Yiddish turned it into an adjective, so.
Cool.
Okay, well, I would just like to say that I'm very proud of you. Jared is one of my friends from New York, so New York in the house.
Sup, Holmes.
Also, I just want to say, I am a person who I have never played a video game except for maybe like solitaire. So I'm going to study this. I took pictures of all the sides, and I'm going to try to find something that's good for a beginner to do. Maybe you
Let's
have like
talk.
a recommendation for like a beginner, you know, practically like video version, video game version.
Okay, I think that would actually take a 50 questions quiz. That I think I'm probably going to post it on my blog maybe next week after I answer a bunch of 1,000 unread emails.
Okay, well, this was great. Thank you very much.
I will have you know that level actually has literally 40 hidden blocks in it with about 200 available enemies if you hit them all. This is not an easy level.